You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. What up, man? This is your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. And today, we have an amazing independent comic book creator. Not just that, he's an independent comic book publisher. Not just that, he's like a writer and does everything. He wears multiple hats. This man does it all. He's every type of department you would believe that a comic book company should have, all sunk into one person. The incredible, the bionic, the one, the only Mr. Michael Dolce. How you doing?
Thank you so much. And I'm wearing a hat today, so it works out even better.
There you go. Is the title on the hat of what you're wearing today?
You know what? Just a local team, local minor league baseball team that we like to support. But in general, I just like your hat intro, so I figured,
There you go.
I'm wearing a hat.
All right. Well, Mr. D, thank you for coming on and hanging out with me today. To talk about, first off, the awesome book you got out there, the Sire Origins, all right? But then your journey, into independent publisher and even the why. Because, you're a man that took charge and you said, you know what? My story got to be told. So, and you took charge of that. And I love that type of take charge, entrepreneurial, mentality. It's very inspiring.
That sums it up for the most part. I mean, don't ask permission, just go.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Just go. That's the birth of Comic Crew. Just get it done. If you're tired of seeing negativity, then come to a place that celebrates positivity.
Exactly.
I know positivity don't sell as good. But you know what? I'd rather keep it positive because eventually people will understand.
Absolutely.
Right? Anyway, so with that, a bit about yourself, Mr. D. Where you OG from, and what is the first thing you ever fell in love with in fandom?
Oh, man. So I am from just outside New York City. I'm about 40 minutes north on the Jersey side. I grew up there, went to school upstate New York, and then headed back down and been there ever since. New York City being a hub, it's nice to be within that range. And it's funny. I would not say I'm like a native New York City person because I never lived there, but I might as well have because I had so many friends down there. I've made a lot of friends within the comic book community. I actually grew up in the town where Wizard Magazine was born too, and so I worked for Wizard for many years too. Yeah, so
nice.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been it's comics have been with me for a long, long time. The very first thing I fell in love with was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, that was what got me into it. I visited a stationery store when I was in 5th grade, and after having watched the cartoon for many Sundays, I watched it when it was first Sunday before it got syndicated. And I saw the comic book on the rack and I was like, I got to get this. And I did. It was one of the Archie series in issue 5.
Oh, nice.
And I still have it. And what's cool is I actually have a good run of those Archie books, and I got to read them to my son, who's like 7 years old. So pretty good stuff,
You said I read them to my son, not that I gave them to my son.
Oh, no, not
the words.
Not those. No. He doesn't know how to treat the pages of the books quite. My brother-in-law, his uncle gave him a bunch of his old Pokemon cards, and I think he's wishing he didn't because he was a little too young. He was a little too young to understand the value of it. Now he does. Now he's like, "Oh man, this is worth a lot of money." I'm like, It was worth a lot of money. It was
when you first got it.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Awesome. So were you alone then in your geekdom growing up? Were you a lone wolf in the geekdom, or did you have a tribe of fellow geeks that shared in your culture?
I had 2 of my best friends who are still best friends to this day. It's funny. So in 4th grade, in 3rd grade, they became friends. I was in a different class. And then in 4th grade, we were all in the same class. And one of them I had been in class with in 2nd grade. And I was like, "Oh, Daryl, it's you." Back when you don't really have anybody, you kind of recognize who you recognize. And it's like him and his friend Alex, who I also became really good friends with. And we're all best friends. they would make little comic books. Back then it was Legend of Zelda. Nintendo was very big back then, and that's what we kind of got into, and that's what we kind of did. And in fifth grade, it was Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, and in sixth grade, Daryl showed me Spectacular Spider-Man. I think it was 160 with the Shocker, or was it 158 with the Shocker? And that was my gateway into the Marvel universe and superheroes and all that fun stuff. So yeah, no, we did have a tribe, and way back in the day. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people did this, but I used to make comics, and my mom would photocopy them, and I would sell them to my friends for 50 cents, a pop,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
it was good stuff.
See, we created comics in junior high school, me and my friends, making
Hmm.
fun of each other actually, because, we had names for each other. So
Sure,
we would create the characters based on the nicknames given in the school, Psycho, Melonhead, Father Meatball, you know what I mean?
sure,
Jiggly Wiggly. It's horrible, horrible. But it was ridiculously funny,
yeah,
and there's like one would draw, another person would write, and then all right, so the next person will come up, right? So I'll do the next new strip style. We just pass it around class. We never thought of selling it, but we would put it together, and like
sure.
just pass it around class, and people would fucking die. They're like, yo, you guys are so messed up. No way you could do shit like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, that was the thing too. In high school, we had a bunch of like we were the art people in high school. We were the ones that would get nominated for best artist and this and that. Like if
Hey.
in the
Oh, you were
yearbook,
that guy in the lunchroom. Hey, yo, bro, can you draw something for me?
we would go to the library. It was the library. The library is where we
He
were.
said
But
the library. I
yeah,
got away from the lunchroom crowd.
yeah, no, we would do the library, and that would be, that was it
Cool.
too. And there was always people that loved making comics. It just wasn't as popular as it is now, right?
I get it. In the era, absolutely. I mean, that's why I always love asking that question that you have even a tribe, because
Yeah,
mine didn't get discovered too much later, but I eventually did have one, and it was cool to share in that. It was a
yeah.
nice. And then together we discovered cons, and like, and at least we didn't like the same things, which made it better because no one was cock blocking one another trying to get comic
There
books.
was
You
no well,
feel
first
me?
of all, there was no cock blocking Comic Cons 20 years ago. That I can tell you right now. If you had a woman at the Comic Con, then she was like a unicorn. As opposed to, I remember around 2012 is when I noticed things started changing where, it wasn't boyfriends dragging their girlfriends around. It was girlfriends dragging their boyfriends around. And I was like, something clicked. Something's different
Something's
now.
amiss.
Yeah, something's different here. But
But
let me
it's
ask you a
cool.
question though.
Yeah.
The fact that it's so popular now, I mean, obviously there's tons of positives to that and positives for us, but do you miss the days where it was kind of like this cool thing that was, kind of yours? I
Well, I
kind of
kind
do.
of I do, just because of the fact that it was then comic centric.
Yeah,
It was focused on the collecting, on the
sure.
books. It was vendors bringing good stuff that you were after, and you could haggle. Nowadays, it's a pop culture show. Vendors
Right.
go there with overpriced books that say, "Wait a minute!" Don't even price their books. You bring it to them, and they say, "Wait a minute!" Pick up their phone and go to eBay. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
No, no. So yes, I mean, before I had moved to Florida many years ago, I had gone to a nice hotel show, and could you imagine me picking up a whole bunch of Sal Buscema Hulks, early 200 for 50 cents a pop? I picked up
Wow.
like 50 of them for 50 cents a pop. You
Wow.
understand me?
Yeah.
I mean,
No, that's
it doesn't happen anymore.
no. No, the hotel shows were great though. I mean, the church
Yes,
shows too, like church basement shows. I mean, that was
yes.
my first con
Yes.
experience was going
Let's
to like a
freeze,
church basement
Mike.
show.
Let's bring them back somehow. They can't come back at this point. The speculators ruined it yet again,
Yeah.
like the '90s.
Yep. It's true. Absolutely.
Oh shit! All right, so talk about then. You take it. Okay, so you're having fun in school. You're creating this art, whatever.
Mhm.
When did you really say, "All right, I think I want to really do something with this"? When did
Oh,
that
6th grade.
decision spark?
No, 6th
Oh, he
grade,
said
yeah.
sixth grade. He knew. You
Oh,
knew.
yeah, no, I knew exactly what I was
He
put on the
knew.
earth to do, and that was it, and that was,
Shit, love
that's a
it.
good feeling, right? It's a good
It
feeling, so
is.
everything,
Wow.
I did so it's funny because the character that we're gonna talk about is the Sire, and I actually created him in 6th grade,
He said
and
in the
I
sixth grade.
would take the pieces of paper, and I'd fold them together and make these comic books, and, obviously Boy, man, I was epic in my output back then. I mean, I created so many little comic books. I would call them the little comic books. And then like
He was
I
the
mentioned,
Jack Kirby of kids back then,
dude, I mean, I got to tell you, like,
right?
I mean, between sixth grade and ninth grade, I put out, I mean, it had to be like 60, 70 comics, like,
Oh
and
wow,
a lot of them
really?
I would sell. Like I would sell them to classmates, and I would sell them and things
And,
like
and,
that.
and you
And
were making some bread on this, right?
well, lunch
I
money
mean,
bread. I guess lunch money
hey,
bread, right?
it's a lot of money, but listen, I would do the same thing with Marvel and DC comics. I
Yeah.
knew this kid that liked comics, but I'll be honest. Let me make a declaration here. Forgive me, Andy. I still remember his name. Um, he would leave the comic books in his desk for religious instruction. I take him back. I wait 2 days. He didn't realize, and I resell them.
See, now that's just full on entrepreneurial right there. That's just that's supply and demand. But yeah, no, it was something that I've always known, and the cool part about the Sire was it was a book that I would always keep coming back to. So
The
like through high
Sire.
school, you,
Why the
you read you
Sire?
read
Talk to me.
well.
What is the Sire? I need to know. 'Cause, this is a little kid. What the
Yeah.
heck did this little kid think of the Sire? What happened?
You
What?
know what? I got to be honest. The first like 30 or so issues of it, though, you read it, it's definitely just me kind of being inspired by the Stanley, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, John Romita, like, early 60s comic book stuff. I mean, it was just, there was no real reason. He just, a criminal would broke into his house and he's found a costume and went out and fought
And handle the
crime.
business.
That's because that's what you do, right? Like that's what that's what I thought adults did. But then around in high school, you can see all of a sudden I started really diving into, well, wait a minute now. Where does this costume come from? And why is he doing this? And, would I, because obviously you're 14, 15, you're a little more mature and you're just sitting there,
Yeah.
you start asking yourself all these questions. And then so the story started reflecting, that. And then when I got into college, the stories, flipped to a point where they were really, told by like a more mature creator, someone who had been, at least studying writing, studying art. That's what I ended up going to college for was creative writing and for
Mhm.
visual arts. And I remember being in college being like, you know what, this is actually, I've kind of come up with a concept and I've kind of come up with a cast of characters now that are now, they're not just clones of the stuff I was inspired by. They're kind of cool on their own. And that's where I said, you know what, I got to make this this is what I got to do when I graduate, like this is what I got to do when I get out of college. And a lot of hurdles to get there, but eventually, yeah, that's what I ended up doing. So it's pretty good.
So before you decided the self publishing route,
Hmm.
did you attempt to pitch this out to a name a bigger publisher, or did
Yeah.
you know
So
firsthand you wanted to do this dolo?
so originally, because again, I created in sixth grade. The character's name was Street Fighter, and obviously couldn't use that, right?
No, that's a
So
no no.
Um,
Yeah.
so I renamed him Crossfire, and I ended up
Oh man, I
going
remember that.
self-publishing. I pitched it to some companies, and they just they rejected it based on the art. And I said, well, that's fine. I'll just go straight to Diamond. I don't need to go to a publisher. I'll just do it myself. But Diamond came back and said, yeah, this is not the arts. Like, they back then they would give you a checklist if they rejected it, and they would just check
Yeah.
off, whatever the box was. And the box was art's just not professional enough. And I kind of had to come to terms with that fact. And I had a good friend of mine, Darren Sanchez, who I had worked at Wizard with, and he one time he had kind of sat me down because he was into doing independent comics too, and he just kind of said, look, what is your goal here? Are you trying to tell a story, or are you trying to make an art project? And I said, look, I'm trying to tell a story here. He says, then just get another artist. It's okay. You don't have to do everything. I was
Yeah.
thinking about it in terms of complete control over something, and at some point you kind of have to let that go and just
Yeah, for ownership, because you get scared growing up
Sure.
listening to the Stanley horror stories. Like even
Sure.
in the recent documentary, he has still that I factor to him. No,
Yeah.
no, that's crazy.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. So you just basically kind of have to relinquish some sort of control. And luckily,
Yeah,
I was paired up with Dan Leister, who um, Darren had known because he had drawn his foray into independent comic books. And
Yeah.
Dan had actually come in second at the Wizard World Chicago talent search that they did with that Marvel did.
Oh wow.
And so he gave me his info. I reached out to him. I'd met him a couple times at different conventions, whatever. And I said, hey, look, I'm looking to do this book. At that point, I had renamed it the Sire, and really kind of honed the whole concept of it, in terms of kind of packaging it from the beginning. And I said to him, I said, look, I work at Wizard. I can at least get us a free table at cons, because
Yeah.
back then there was San Diego Comic-Con and there was Wizard World shows. That's all there were, really.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll give you, X amount of what we make, and I'll, to my credit, I held up my end of the bargain, which was great. And Dan did too. Dan just brought it. And Sire Origins, which is in stores today, actually, which is pretty cool.
Hey,
yeah.
I mean, you mean
Which collects
that
the first-
lovely book right there?
Yeah.
That one right there. Wepa, look at that. You know what I was gonna say? Because I was looking at the girl and everything, and like, yo, on the hair and the style, very Michael Turnerish.
Well, so the cover artist was Talon Caldwell. And so Talon came from the Michael Turner Studios. And
Hey, no wonder, yo, bro, I see it.
Yep.
I see it.
Well, that's the thing,
Wow.
and I was so fortunate to get to know Tal, and the best part about all this experience and this journey too is just the fact that the three of us became super great friends. Both were at my wedding. I was at Dan's wedding. I mean, like,
Hey,
we became really tight in this
wonderful.
journey to bring this to stores.
Excellent. So, let's start taking a look. I mean, look at that panel work. Very, woo.
Yeah, Dan just killed it, man. He really does. And the
Uh,
funny thing is too, as great as this book is too, he's even so much better today. And that's a beautiful thing. But that's just getting back to the original story real quick. Was, again, I got rejected by Diamond coming out of college in 2002. It took a couple years of just at first I was trying to redraw the book myself, so that's what kind of factored
Okay.
into the delay. But then by 2005, with Dan behind me and with Tal doing the covers for us, we were in with Diamond. So that's all we could ask for. And at that point, self-publishing was all I
Wait,
kind of
so
wanted to do.
so once you resubmitted, Diamond sent you back that checklist, all green check mark, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good to go.
So that when you saw that, explain to me that moment after feeling first that rejection. I wonder, like, how
Yeah.
did you feel in that moment? Do you remember?
Do you know what's funny is so we went through. So I mentioned Darren Sanchez, and he had a small label called After Hours Press. So we ended up submitting through After Hours Press.
Okay.
And so to me, it was, if this doesn't happen now, I don't know how it's going to happen. So it was relief. I was thrilled, but it was also one of those, like, like when you're asking a girl out on a date and you're just hoping she says yes, and then she finally does, and it's just like, oh, thank God. Like, it took me so much just to ask the question.
You break down. You once he says this, you almost say it in front of her. Thank God, what took you so long?
Right.
Oops, did I say that loud? Right.
right. And that's exactly how I felt. I was like, oh,
Awesome.
thank God. Like, I can finally, like, I was
Great.
I was a caged tiger, and it's like, finally you can let me loose here. And that's what I wanted to do. Now, the funny part is, and you kind of talked about it in your intro, lessons learned and things like that. I worked so hard, so many years to get out of the gate, that I was not prepared to be out of the gate. As much as we put all this work into it, it's like, holy cow, wait, you mean I got to do this again? And I got to do it again in 30 days. And in the Sires, in the original timeline, I'm like, I got to do it in 60 days. Cause I did it bi-monthly at that point, just to make sure I hit my deadlines. That was one of the things that I wish, looking back, if I'd have gotten those 3 issues done first, then I could have been a monthly book,
All
and
right.
then we would have seen what had happened. Something,
Oh,
who knows?
so you just had the idea. You said, let's just start working on it. Pitched it, so let's get it done, and put yourself under pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I need the pressure.
Yeah, are
I
you a
need it.
masochist? Apparently, right?
Yeah, it'll keep coming up. I like to put myself under this pressure, like you said, in order to,
Yeah,
get myself over the hump, because otherwise I am very much like the character. I am very lazy. I can just, it's just so much easier not to do
Yeah.
something than to do something. And
It makes you
so,
feel like he looks in this particular panel, I guess,
yeah, well, yeah,
huh?
this is him. This is him waking up with the costume on. So basically, the Sire is about a superhero. He's forced by his own costume to fight evil. It's kind of like having a spider sense, but instead of warning him danger, actually puts him in danger. And
Ah,
he basically, he's trapped fighting this superhero lifestyle against other superhumans who have an urge to fight him, because of where the origins of their powers came from. They're all interconnected, and they're all kind of after each other with this subconscious, on a subconscious level.
gotcha.
And so he's the Sire, and he
I
really,
love it. If it's Highlanderous, like I'm gonna be the
yeah,
last one I'm ever.
yeah. And so
I
he really, really
love
doesn't
it.
want to be, like, he is the Sire, and he really doesn't want to be.
The Sire. And why that name? Going from the Street Fighter and the other joy, and then now the Sire.
So, I mean, I was never truly happy with Crossfire. I kind of just did it to have the same syllables as like a Street Fighter. Crossfire. I kind of said, all right, it's kind of
Yeah.
similar enough. It's little things like this. I'm like, again, this is just me being 21 years old and not knowing better, really. My strength as a writer is always in character and dialogue, and setting up these situations, and having, the dance of the characters getting out of the situations. And so little things like costume design, and even the name of him,
Hmm.
uh, not like, I realize now how much more important it is now. But back then I was like, well, let me just tell this great story, because then people, once they read the story, it doesn't matter. They'll be great and they'll be hooked. And that's, again, just the naivety and not knowing and the
But
inexperience. And so I actually had a different character called the Sire, and he was going to be the character that kind of came and taught him a little bit more about his powers. And I said, you know what? That's a great name. I said, wait a minute,
yeah,
that's a great name. And that was it. And I transferred it over to the main character.
awesome, awesome. I mean, and look at old Zia. I mean, looking like Bruce Lee. What's popping?
Yep.
But I love the panel work, the bubble placement too. For the who's doing your lettering?
That's me.
But- Oh, hey man, let me tell
Yeah.
you, great job. Because ever since I spoke to a world class um letterer,
Yep.
and she was telling me about placement,
Yep.
and yeah, bro. I mean, you got it covered. So I'm always keeping an eye for that, and it's true. The best letterers complement the art on the
Yes.
scene, and don't disturb it. So, dude, I mean, when did you even learn lettering? See the many
Uh,
hats he wears, folks. Jeez.
it was in college. So again, remember, in college, I mean, college was great, right? Like, I mean, basically, I was working full time on this book, or I was in the bar. That was it. I was in the computer lab, or I was in the bar, or at the art table. That was it.
At the pub. What is it with
Yeah.
comic guys and pubs, man?
Wow. It's a fun place to be, right?
Hey, hey.
But no, I actually, what's funny, in the original iteration of Crossfire, I actually created my own font based on my handwriting.
Oh, cool.
And I didn't use it for Sire, because by the time I got to Sire, I had access to fonts through Wizard magazine that I wouldn't have, normally been able
Oh,
to
nice.
get access to. And I got this great comic book font, and I was like, I'll just use this. It's better, than using my handwriting. My handwriting's terrible, so it was a
Yeah,
good decision.
yeah. Listen, not even chickens could read mine. You feel me?
Yeah. But no, but lettering is important. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that, and luck, thankfully, it's one of the ones I got right. But
Yeah, I love it.
lettering back in the day, I mean, you can see, like, one of the companies I work with right now, it's a company called Rogue Matter, and we just got a submission in, and immediately we look at the submission. It's like, no, this lettering is amateur. Like, and it's like, we can't take this book seriously. Like, if you can't letter the book, it looked like he did it. He doesn't know anything about, like, the size of the word balloon is huge. The text is
Yep.
huge. The word, like, the tails don't really line up correctly. And it's like,
The
I'm not even gonna
structure.
read your book. I'm not even gonna
Yeah,
read your book.
exactly. I gotta follow the conversation
Mhm.
properly. You got that placement is key in the conversational flow. I mean,
Yep.
you guys do such a great job that for me this was like a novela,
Yeah.
a novela the way it flows. Like, what is going on,
Yeah.
son? Because for again, I got to read halfway through. I'm just beginning to discover what the hell is going on. But I see there's, I'm digging it.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it. And the good
There's
news
some
is
criminals
we are.
that you know what I'm digging though. There's just the bad guy element. Because again, I'm
Yep.
a fan of villains. You have the hardcore dudes that just like not even asking questions, and you got that one guy,
Hmm.
that gives me that doom feel. Is like, yeah, I'm angry. I'm gonna probably do something angry, but fucked up. But at the same time, however, why the fuck are we not asking how the fuck we
Right.
got this? And I
Right.
love that. I'm already digging the character because it's
Good.
like, all right, that's the type of character I dig. Is all right. How did I get this? And then obviously later, I'm pretty sure, being who he is, he may say, how can I use this to my advantage? Unlike
Yes.
these fools.
Well, the good news is the journey of the Sire has been a long one. The first book was released in '06, and
Wow, oh six, bro.
yeah, and
Wepa.
yeah. So what you're
Wow.
reading is actually like almost it's over 15 years old, which is awesome, and it still holds up.
It
But
does.
in around 2012, I ended up relaunching the book. Not relaunching, but like I ended up picking the book up again. And
Okay.
to date, we have about 13 issues out. And thanks to Dren Productions, who's the publisher of this book now, and they're fully committed to the series. We've got another three
Wonderful.
issues, slated to come out. We're actually releasing new issues through Diamond that were never released in stores starting in November, and in 2024, we'll be picking the book, right back up where we left off. And there's so many good things coming down the pipeline in terms of just building up a story. And look, it's an old school style story. I'm a huge fan of 80s, 90s comics.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Preach. That was my first feel for this too.
Yeah.
So 90s, but not in a bad way. I
No,
mean,
no,
you know what?
not at
This
all.
this is what I need. Thank God someone is making this something.
Yeah.
Not throwing me no narratives. It's like, some superhero story, that keeps you guessing as about what's going on.
Hmm.
Good old storytelling, and beautiful, beautiful art that,
Yeah.
I was zooming in on the pages. I was reading it, and thank you again for the PDF, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this art. I mean, I'm seeing this. I'm like, yo, this is like animation level art on this
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah. No, and Dan, like I said,
Gorgeous.
Dan knocked it out of the park. Dan's the artist in the first four issues. We have Jose Holder, who actually works for Netflix now. He's a storyboard. He's like in charge of
Whoa.
all the storyboard artists at Netflix now. He's on issue 5 and 6. And then starting with issue 7, which is going to be a new number one. I'm basically just going to keep relaunching them as number one for the collector
Yeah.
value and to get people attracted to the book again. But chapter 7, Dan comes back on board. We have Chris Carter. We have myself on a couple of issues as well,
Hey.
and leading into the next set of books. I mean, I'm very blessed to have met enough solid artists that I could actually afford.
Excellent, excellent. So how was that journey in finding, the next artist and whatnot? Man, then look at this though. I mean, this is gorgeous, bro. I'm
I
so
did the
digging
coloring
this.
on it too, so I'll give myself a little
What?
bit of props on
Folks,
that.
look at this again. Letterer, colorer, what else,
Yeah,
bro? Did you also print the book and drive it around the country? What's
I
going on?
paid for it. I can tell you that.
I
Yeah,
love it, yo. Great job, bro. Man, hats off to you.
thank you.
Salute. A man definitely taking charge, and then
Yeah,
knowing where he needs to get. Hey, bro, if I can't do this, all right, I'll get it done this way. So,
yep.
I really respect the hustle, bro. Enough
There's a
respect.
there's a part of me that I mean, who wouldn't want to do a Marvel book or a DC book? I was always more of a Marvel guy anyway, not a DC guy. But quite frankly, I just always wanted to do this book. I mean,
Yeah.
I really did. And and
But you're
and bottom
doing it
line,
on the level of Marvel or DC, as
yeah.
a matter of
Oh
fact,
yeah. No, look,
with
anything I do has got
just
to be
as
the highest
high
quality.
or better quality. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And something that's actually fresh that you don't need 1,000 issues to catch up on, and
Correct.
or not even trying to sell me something other than a wonderful story.
Thank you. That's it. That's my mission, and I'm glad.
Thank you.
I'm glad it registered.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm reading this with a smile on my face so far. 'Cause I'm like, wow, a fresh air, if you will. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And coming into the room. Thank you, just taking me back. We need this, folks. This is what I mean from when old school comic collectors mean that we're looking for some old school fun. This is this. Just have some wild old school fun art.
yeah,
I mean, look at this panel, and again, look, story. You see that bubbles? You know what I mean? There's a lot of story there. This is not
yeah.
one of those Marvel books that you read in 5 minutes,
No.
front to back. No, no. This is nice and hearty. You better get yourself a nice, Cuba Libre or Margarita, your beer. You know what I mean? Get that book outside on the porch and start reading because you're going to have a hella fun time.
Yeah. No,
Guaranteed.
it's funny you mentioned that too. I was just I'm on vacation this week, and I have my Marvel Unlimited app, and I said, it's about time I start doing something with this thing, right? And I started rereading all of the old Uncanny X-Men issues, like the Claremont run
Oh, nice.
from the beginning, and a lot of books I didn't even get a chance to read because they were too expensive when I was
Of
kids.
course.
When I was a kid to buy it and everything,
I get it.
and I missed that. I miss like I didn't even realize the page counts for those early 70s and 80s Marvel titles were only 18 pages, 17
Yeah.
pages. Like it was crazy. But you felt like you got so much more. And
Because
nowadays
the
you get
word bubble, the word
right,
count, I mean, it was
right.
story. You were stuck on a panel
Yeah,
for at least a minute, two
right.
minutes, and then you also had to appreciate the art. So that's another, 30 seconds, 45 seconds,
Yeah.
and then you're moving on. So,
Yep.
those were healthy half-hour reads on a comic
Yes.
book.
Yes. And that's what I
Half
tried.
hour
That's what I try to do.
per issue, half hour per issue. I'll never
Yeah.
forget this because I would time it. And then as I got older, that time got shorter and shorter
Hmm.
because there was the explosion. Look at the big splash pages. Look at stop it, overuse. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Stop
Yep.
it. Give me story. You know, I want girth in actual pages, not those splash pages.
Yep. Agreed.
And look at that. Oh, Dan, is that letter in you too, bro?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, where
Yeah.
five, bro?
Yeah.
But so all right. So I need to get in your headspace now.
Sure.
Can you pronounce in your right now loudly the sound effect?
Badawi. So funny story about that sound effect though. That is actually a good friend from when I was growing up, and then we ended up a roommate as well too, and his last name was Badawi, and he's like, you got to get me this book
Right.
somehow, and I said, all right, there you go,
Oh,
your
man,
last
there you
name.
go.
That's his last name. But it's a great sound effect,
Sound
so it
effect.
worked out good.
It is, yo, for real. Oh shit, yo, salute to Mr. Badawi. There you go.
And that's
You
right.
live forever as a sound effect.
That's right.
I love it. But again, look at this. Yeah, I mean, this artwork, the scenery, dude, man. I think this is such a well put together
Thank you.
book.
Thank you so much. And so what you're actually showing on screen right now too is some of the new content that you wouldn't have gotten in the
Ooh,
original books as well too. So that is
ooh.
Dan Leister, circa 2023, and with
Oh
Danielle
shit! What?
Carmanico, who actually did the coloring on this one, just because at that point I'm just doing too much, but I still did the lettering. So
Wonderful job, but yeah, I'm in love right now with that top panel of the building. So
yeah,
much detail, it looks gorgeous, yo,
yeah. No,
gorgeous.
it gives you that's something else too. I mean, rereading these old comics again, and this is obviously where I got my sensibility from. Though, you got a perspective on the space that the characters
Yes,
occupied, and
yes.
in a lot of today's comics, you don't like. They're just kind of
Yep. Well, but
it's a yeah.
this new age kind of goes back to almost the Kirby because Kirby, would definitely have more forefront characters. When they
Mm-hmm.
would focus on the scene, would be more on the splashes and whatnot. But to
Mm-hmm.
be honest, on those close-up scenes, there was really not much in the back end space.
Yeah.
Now, nowadays a lot of artists do focus on it, and I think it just adds so much more because
Yeah.
there's mystery in there. There's things to find,
Yep.
within it too. Easter eggs, we will sometimes. Like,
I
wait a
agree.
minute, there's something that they could have hidden on a
Mm-hmm.
previous panel. Like, oh shit, that it was in front of my face the whole time,
Yep.
and I dig that. So yeah, I understand. Again, and I love the artistry here. Even on this, what is like that third panel, where everybody's in the room. You got the
Mm-hmm.
TV. Even the lamps. It's just showing little things like that. It's
Yeah.
just important. It's like it feels like it's an important room. What is going on?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
No, Dan's awesome. Dan is
The
is
scene,
just so good.
the scene is. Oh man, look, and then just the movement, the eye candy of movement.
Yep.
Yeah, you really were inspired by that Claremont on the World Bubbles. I love it. That's
Yeah.
what I mean, though. It's a healthy reading,
Yes.
in a wonderful way. You're getting value for your dollar. I mean, you said this baby is out today. I mean, how many pages is this bad boy overall? And you know, how much people got to make it rain on the comic shop, their favorite comic shop or website? You know, whether they got to visit, you know,
So
yours or Dren. I mean, where can we get it?
so yeah, so it's in stores nationwide, so you can ask your local comic book store. My only regret is, and I managed to do this for the next trade, which was is I just with the cost of printing, we the best I could do was like 17.99 for the book, but it's 80 pages of comic book, so you get
80.
you're getting a ton,
Ooh.
for that price. Now, Sire Revelations, which comes out next, actually comes out in September. It collects the next 3 books. I managed to work a deal with the printer to get it down to 9.99. So, yeah, so you'll be able to get
Oh.
everything, and then going forward, we're going to start releasing single issues again, and that's going to be pretty exciting.
Oh my God, folks! It goes right there. Not all costumes are a perfect fit.
Yep.
You can order from your comic book stores now. It's in shops today, as he said.
Yep.
We got to check this out. He has a plan, a man with a mission.
That's
You
right.
heard this from Origins to Revelations, and that a steady run to start filling your comic book boxes with this
Yes.
awesome goodness. Get that self pouring in the graphic novels. Now I gotta know, bro. I
Hmm.
need to know something really important. And before that, folks, this is what we got to do before that next question. You got the Twitter, you got right there. You
Hmm.
got the Instagram, you got the 2 Facebooks. You know, both Sire and Dren Productions, salute to Dren Productions, and then the 2 websites, folks. The links are below. Make sure to click, follow, support independent creativity. Right, coming from these studios. You know what it is. All right,
Yeah, and we're
so
gonna we're gonna give it a little bit of time to circulate the comic book stores because we love our retailers and we want them to kind of get everything. So it'll be on the website in the next coming couple weeks or so, but we want to kind of give
excellent.
comic book stores the first crack at
The
getting
first dibs.
people can
Woo!
order.
Make them sell out off the sellers. Sell out
That's
that
it.
diamond, folks. This is what you guys need. This is the good stuff. So
Yeah.
it is con season, Mike. Are you going to
Yeah.
be doing anything? Any cons where we could pick up these books, get them signed? What's popping?
I will be roaming San Diego Comic-Con, because I will not have a booth there, but I will be bouncing around. And then New York Comic-Con is always our big show. So
Yeah.
that'll be in October, and Revelations will be out by then, and so you can get both trades, and you can get the next volumes. To be honest with you, too. Although again, I support our
Ooh.
retailers, but we took the Kickstarter around 20. Yeah, about 2013, and I started doing. I've been doing Sire on Kickstarter ever since. So we're up to issue 13. So you can
Nice.
you can kind of cash in and get all those books by then. And we're working on 14 to 17 right now.
Excellent. So I guess I'll definitely be seeing you at New York Comic Con because my
Absolutely,
press.
please, yes. The Dren Productions booth. I don't have a booth number yet. We don't have it yet, but just look
My,
for Dren Productions. We'll be there.
oh, don't you worry, man. My press pass is ready to go, baby. They
Awesome.
gave me that notification. I'm excited. One of my favorite cons because even though I was, San Diego, I'm gonna have a rep go on my behalf and handle that
Cool.
business. You know what I mean? Hey, man,
San
Uncle
Diego's
Sam
too
wasn't
big to
nice
have
to
a
me.
booth sometimes. I feel like because we've done booths before. I actually was with Dren in 2016, and when we did a booth, and uh, it just. I mean, it ended up we made our money back on the table, but not getting out there and not anything like that. So it was just one of those things where
No,
we
don't you
decided,
worry.
yeah,
You got to have a pitch, man. I got ideas for you on how to sell that book. Don't you worry. I
nice,
want to. I need to see everybody pitching in front of tables, Mike.
yes,
You don't sit behind the
no,
table. You know,
no,
you don't sit at all. You stand,
that's right,
holding books. All right, that's how you do it. You gotta have a man like me. Just pop in every 5 minutes, do a circle, and as soon as somebody's there, yo, this is such a great book. Oh, yo, you know how many books I've sold for Joe St. Pierre? Shout out.
that's
He
good,
owes me commission.
that's good.
He
Hey, we'll
tells
pay
me
commission.
he tells me I need you to hide under the table and just pop out randomly.
I love it. I'm down. I'm down for that.
All right, cool. So, folks, you heard that. He'll be roaming at SDCC. He will be at NYCC. We got to make that happen. last bit here is what type of advice based on your journey would you
Yeah.
give to new cats trying to come up in the game now?
I mean, today is so different than when I first broke in. I mean, Diamond is almost an afterthought now. I mean, we do Diamond to just to reach a wide audience, but our audience is now funneled through Kickstarter. So my advice, well, ironically, my advice is the same advice that I would have given you 15 years ago too. If you have an idea, just go do it. You're going to make a ton of mistakes. You're going to learn a lot of lessons. But ultimately, there is no perfect anything in life except issue 5 of Sire. Actually, it was like the perfect issue. But other than that, there's nothing perfect. It's just you gotta just do it, and you'll figure it out. You can't figure it out, wondering what it's like. You got to do it, and that's it. That's my advice.
There you go, folks. From the man himself, the legend, the bionic Mike Dolce. And I call him the bionic because he wears many hats. He'd be springing into your action, doing everything from lettering, coloring, printing, publishing, publicists. I mean, folks, you see it all. And all from a 6th grade dream. You feel me?
That's right.
So you could do it too, folks. Believe in yourselves. I mean, Mike not only believed in himself, he is doing it. He's not trying. That's what I love, man. People that are doing it in the game. So a big salute to you once again, my brother.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. And just it's funny too because part of that dream was standing outside looking for autographs from all my favorite creators, in the freezing cold and this and that. And through the course of my career, I mean, I've done some stuff at Image, and I was able to sign comic books next to them. So it can happen.
Isn't that awesome? Absolutely. Well, that's right. It could happen. Let me say this from the lottery, man. Sometimes you need just, $1 in a dream, right? Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. That's what I mean by that dollar. Invest that dollar in you and dream, because you could definitely make it happen. And with that, I'm out. Mega. Thank you for listening to another Comic Crusaders podcast. All the links are below. Support the big homie Michael Dolce and his amazing book, The Sire. I highly recommend it. Old school, superhero fun. Definitely put a smile on your face. Like I said, this is time for you to sit back, relax, get your favorite drink, and turn off the TV, put on that lamp, and I'm telling you, you guys will be very happy. Trust me on this one. And I'm looking forward to the next. I can't wait to finish this and then see what else is going to pop off in this dope universe that I'm now being
I'll hit you up with Revelations. The PDF will be ready shortly.
Well, there we go, folks. Thank you. And again, follow everything Comic Crusaders, all over the socials, Comic Crusaders World on YouTube. And visit the website, comiccrusaders.com. And my extended family over at undercovercapes.com. So, bucks, my gente. Much love. Wepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.com and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.